Bob Livingston is the founder of the Livingston Group. Clients include EADS. He is a former Republican congressman from Louisiana. He served on the Appropriations Committee. Mr. Livingston, good to have you with us. Peter Cook reporting that Boeing is being tapped for this contract. Is this done and dusted, or does this mean now more lobbying takes place in Congress and indeed maybe even some filing of complaints about the actual process?
Well, thank you, Tim. I really couldn't speak to whether or not complaints are going to be filed or not. I can tell you that EADS thought that they had a magnificent package. They were going to hire 48 to 50,000 people throughout the United States. As Peter's indicated, it was going to be centered in the Gulf Coast of the southern part of the United States, but there are going to be jobs, indirect or direct, all over the country. And the fact that EADS has won 5 other competitions around the world, has 11 airframes flying. I don't think Boeing has any airframes, tankers, meeting the specifications flying today, so it's going to take some time for them to get theirs up and running, whereas Australia is testing existing planes today from EADS. So it's a little bit of a surprise. I think EADS probably thought they had the better product, and we had hoped that the Air Force had thought that they did as well. But the competition has now been finished. The Air Force has made its decision. We'll have to see what happens from here on out.
What is the next step, Mr. Livingston? Is this something that gets handed over to Congress, or is this just a go-ahead for Boeing and everybody walks away?
Well, the Air Force had initially picked EADS with Northrop Grumman a couple of years ago, and Boeing filed a protest. There were brand new specifications outlined by the Air Force, and the criteria were met by virtually all of the checklists handed down by EADS. We did not think that they were met by Boeing. But if the Air Force has now decided they did, clearly the lawyers will have to get busy and take a look and see whether all of the T's were crossed and then the I's were dotted.
Peter Cook. Let me see if I can just bring in Peter Cook. I mean, Peter, what about the politics of this? I mean, is there going to be more jockeying for this contract, or do you feel as though, all right, they've finally come down with a decision, let's move ahead and build the thing?
Well, the reality, Pimm, is that everyone here expects that there is likely to be a challenge, in this case from EADS, and that the same would have been true if EADS had prevailed, given the stakes here, the money involved, and the political interests as well. I can tell you that politics here in Washington favored Boeing all along simply because it was the more American bid. That's just the reality of things. The Pentagon says that is not anything that they considered in the course of their evaluations here, but there are folks on the Hill who certainly believe otherwise and were prepared to make that case if Boeing had lost, that they should have been considered because they were the more all-American bid. Again, we are expecting a challenge from EADS, but we won't know for sure. They have 10 days to decide.
Mr. Livingston, you've been in Washington. You served on the Appropriations Committee. You were in Washington as a congressman from 1977 to 1999. What does it say about how Washington works that it's taken about 10 years to make up its mind on how to pick and who to select to build an aerial tanker? They're flying aircraft that were created in the 1950s and 60s.
That's exactly right. The KC-135 was actually designed in the 50s during Dwight Eisenhower's administration, and then it was built in the early 60s and then carried on. But it's an old plane. It's a great plane. It was a workhorse, and it's time to move on. Our men and women in the armed services deserve a tanker that can deliver gas to our fighter jets and to our AWACS aircraft and so forth. And the fact is that EADS had an aircraft that was prepared to do that. EADS has been working on it for 7 years, and they had a craft that will, in fact, be delivered to other countries, to allies of ours, and evidently, according to this award, maybe not here in the United States, but it's unfortunate for them because they are an American company. I heard Peter say earlier, Pimm, they had a lot of European presence. The fact is, Boeing has a lot of parts and supplies delivered from them to them from abroad as well. And EADS America has roughly 5,000 jobs in this country now. They're making the UH-72A helicopter, which is a light utility helicopter in Columbus, Mississippi. So they're an American company already. They would have enhanced their footprint clearly with this this award, and it would have meant about 48 to 50,000 jobs. And I know that they're disappointed, but their interest is in the American warfighter, and they want to get the best platform that will deliver the goods for those American men and women in uniform.
Peter Cook, is this just a Buy America program? Is it really as simple as that? Didn't we have this issue also with Marine One, the helicopter that was going to replace the aging Marine One helicopter that the president uses? That this really just all comes down to where's the company headquartered, and that's where the money's going to flow unless you can get some kind of political alliance to change the way business is done.
Well, there's criteria here as to, again, Buy American provisions, and both of these bidders met that criteria. EADS North America matched that criteria. It was one of the bidders successfully here to be able to compete for this contract, and as a result, the Pentagon says that should not have been a factor, the fact that the parent company is based in Europe. But, Pimm, you know the reality here in Washington. There's been a lot of politics, a lot of national pride involved with this, and the Boeing folks have certainly raised those issues, cited how many jobs they would support in the U.S. And as Mr. Livingston points out, the EADS bid would have supported jobs in the U.S. As well, a significant number of jobs. At the end of the day, this politically is a safer choice for the Pentagon, but they're going to make the case, I'm sure, in the briefing that's about to begin here, that they made this on the merits. This is the best value for the warfighter, and that was the ultimate test.
Peter Cook, go ahead, Mr. Livingston.
I would agree with what Peter said. I would only add, though, that 2 years ago they made an award based on their criteria of the day that EADS had the best plane. And frankly, because EADS has 11 planes in the air today or under construction and has won 5 competitions around the world, we expected them to win today.
All right. Well, we're going to remind people, of course, that EADS, a client of the Livingston Group,